Welcome
to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 376 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. Holy smokes, it's been a while. It's been a little while. It's been about, looking at my calendar here, about a month. Last episode, 375, was on August 7th. And then I was traveling, and I was on vacation, and all sorts of things happened. And I'm meeting conflicts, but I'm back. I'm back. And it's good to see you. So glad you're here. Let's get started. What are we working on today? Well, that's a great question, because honestly, I haven't really had a lot of time to plan. So we're going to figure it out as we go. But let's start by sharing my screen. Hey, it's September 4th, 2024, episode 376. A reminder, no plan survives breakfast. Sometimes I say this, I'll start this sentence by saying, I have a plan of what I want to do, but there is no plan this time. You're going to be watching me come up with today's episode on the fly, and that's okay. So no plan survives breakfast, and in this case, there is no plan. And even as we come up with one, we may realize that it needs to be rapidly adjusted. That's the first thing. The second thing, the agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, check out the details section over there. Pew, pew, pew. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's down in the video description. And if you're watching this on Twitch, it's in the channel description. There'll be a link to this agenda. And as I update this, maybe I'll add some text here. You'll see this little spinny spin. If you reload the page, the agenda should be up to date. And if you're watching this as a recording, the agenda should be ready to go, already up to date. You get a spoiler. You get to see all the notes I've written already. Okay, what are we doing today? Well, we have a number of things that we could try and land. We've got the beginning of a new cycle. I got review on a bunch of backup-related things that, the reviews came in kind of late in the cycle, and we were in soft freeze, and I didn't really want to land them. And soft freeze is what we call the last few days before the merge from Mozilla Central to Mozilla Beta. And we don't like to land really, really big things around then. It's generally a bad idea. What you want to do is wait until the soft freeze is over, and then you start after the merge completes, you can then start landing things in Central. And so I've got a number of things we could try landing. Some of them may or may not need a rebase, so we can look into that. And an interesting point of fact is I took the opportunity during the holiday, well, not during the holiday, but during the transition from travel and coming back, that I've switched from using Mercurial to Git. So I'm using Git as my primary VCS for Firefox now. So you're going to get to see me struggle with that a little bit. So let me write that in. I've started to use Git for my Mozilla VCS work. Now, to be clear, I've used Git before. I'm not like a complete Git novice or anything. It's just I've never used it to submit patches, to write, to update against all of our different branches and stuff. It's actually fairly interesting because while clients can use Git, the server endpoint is still Mercurial. Via Git Cinnabar. If you're not familiar with Git Cinnabar, it's like a compatibility layer that allows Git clients to talk to Mercurial repositories. And that's fairly interesting. So I am using Git as a client, but the server endpoint that I'm talking to whenever I pull or whatnot, that's all Mercurial. Very interesting. And the idea is that when Mercurial is eventually retired, because there's a plan to eventually get us entirely off of Mercurial on the server side, I don't have to really change my behavior. I can continue to use Git. I'll just be talking to a different endpoint. That's the hope. That's the first piece of news. I've got another piece of news I thought was kind of interesting. Let me pull up a direct link to it. People here may or may not be familiar with something called JPEG XL. Which is it's like an image format. It's an image format that has a number of interesting characteristics. I think it's got a lot of buy-in from graphics software developers and vendors, but it's not well supported across the web. Browsers, for example, most browsers don't really interpret JPEG XL images. Well, I want to show you something, which is this, which is that Firefox will consider a Rust implementation of JPEG XL. This is a standards position that was merged in yesterday. And the TLDR here is that Mozilla is willing to ship a JPEG XL decoder so long as it's written in Rust, and Google has agreed to apply their expertise to actually build that JPEG XL Rust decoder. And so if they deliver, then we would ship it. So that's really relying on Google to sort of hold up their end of the bargain here. But if you're a fan of JPEG XL and you're wondering, what's going on? Is there any movement? Well, here's a little bit of movement, and started yesterday. And there's like some context in here. I'm not really privy to a lot of the conversations or I've never really dabbled in the like image decoding stack of Gecko and Firefox. Like, we've got lots of different image decoders, and obviously whenever you change the kinds of images you support on the web, you have to think carefully about it. They're a great attack surface, these binary formats. And so there's a real good reason why we choose Rust, and that is because it's the safety guarantees that the language provides are a really nice property for something like an image decoder. And apparently what we'd had before was about 100,000 lines of multi-threaded C++, which, I mean, I don't know if that's a red flag for you, but it's sure a red flag for me. 100,000 lines of multi-threaded C++ is if you can replace that with Rust, you should do it. You're going to have a much better time. So hopefully that's what takes place. Anyways, I thought that was pretty interesting. Not that I have a whole lot of skin in the game. I'm not like a graphic designer. There seems to be a lot of people who are very excited about JPEG XL. I'm just a sort of an observer of this, but maybe you're excited about JPEG XL, and I wanted to let you know about this interesting piece of information. So that's one thing. What's the other thing I want to look at? I wanted to... Oh, yeah. Okay, this is something I thought we could look at today as well. If the landings go smoothly, I thought we could look at this. And what about... There was something else that I thought we could look at related to... I gotta open my email to find the message about it. Permanent private browsing. There was some kind of like need info. Yeah. This thing. This bug. So do you remember when we were working on jump lists? How could you forget? Well, if you dig back far enough, you'll see that it was, this work here, this bug that actually sent me down the jump list rabbit hole. And then I never came back to this. And so this is more like, this is a smaller chunk of work, it seems, like where we can change some of the labels to better suit permanent private browsing mode. So currently, whenever you're in permanent private browsing mode, you can like right click on like the task tray and choose open new window, but there's also like open new private window, and that makes no sense when you're in permanent private browsing mode. Like what does it mean to open up a private window when you're in permanent private browsing window? Well, guess what? They're indistinguishable. It's the exact same thing as opening up a window. So I think there's maybe some work we can do here now that we've done the jump list modifications. We might be able to help out Henry Wilkes, who reminded me about this stuff. Henry came to us from or was talking to us via the Tor project. The Tor browser is based on Firefox. They often, I think by default, the Tor browser is in permanent private browsing mode. That shouldn't be a surprise. And they thought that this is something that they would like. So maybe we can dust off the patch that I have in here and see if we can clean it up a little bit, get it closer to something workable. Although I did ask if Henry wanted to do it, and they haven't responded yet. Well, they have responded, but they have to think about it. So let's start at the very beginning. Oh, Smurfy also wants to mention that 130 was released. Firefox 130 was released. That's, yeah, milestone release. That's divisible by 10. Evenly divisible by 10. And so what's in the Firefox 130? Let's take a quick peek. Release notes. Where are the release notes? Here you are. Firefox 130. Offered to users yesterday. Hey, you can do selection translation. So I can select this text, right click on it. I can translate the selection, and instead of it being in English, I'm going to translate it to be in French. And boom, there you go. So you can do selection translation, and then I can like copy that to the clipboard. I think that's pretty handy. It's pretty nice. There's like a bunch of stuff now that's available to our release users via Labs. So if you're not familiar with Labs, check it out. If you go to settings here from the app menu, and then you can choose Firefox Labs here, there's a bunch of stuff you can toggle. Now, not everything you're seeing here will be available right off the bat to everyone on the release channel. Some of these things are only in nightly, some of these things are only in beta. But something that is already in release right off the bat, we can take a look at the release notes here, is the, well, first of all, there's the like sidebar stuff for the AI chatbot, if that's a thing that you're interested in. There's also auto open on tab switch for picture-in-picture. That was a volunteer contribution from Egglessness, and I helped mentor that, and that's fairly interesting. I think I talked about that a few episodes ago about this particular patch. And maybe we can do a little bit of investigation on how to make that work when the application is backgrounded. Because right now this works on tab switch, but maybe we could update it to work as well on application switch. So that's an idea. So let's add some ideas, more ideas on things we can work on today. There's this. There's this. And then the auto pip for application foreground, background. Gregory Pappas asks, will the backup feature be backported to ESR 115? Ideally, yes, but only when we're really confident about it. So one thing I will note, I don't think we've put out any kind of blog post about this just yet, but I know that the decision was made that we're going to extend the 115 ESR lifetime. So 115 is the last version of Firefox to support Windows 7 and 8. There's still a lot of people using Windows 7 and 8. The ESR for 115 is what we migrated everyone to if they were on ESR, if they were on Windows 7 and 8, if they were on the release channel, we like did an auto migration so that they all got moved over to the ESR channel. And the last ESR for 115 was scheduled to go out yesterday. That was going to be the last version. Well, we looked at the numbers, and there's still a lot of people using Windows 7 and 8 for better or worse. And we ran the math, and we figured it was better to continue to support the people on 7 and 8 than to just kind of leave them out on the lurch. Some people, I know some of you might be recoiling at the idea of running such an old, insecure operating system. When was Windows 7 end of life? When was Windows 7 end of life? Apparently, according to Wikipedia, it was on January 13th, 2015. That's almost a decade ago. And then extended support ended about 4 years ago. Almost like 3.5 years ago, something like that. Well, no, longer than that. January 14th. So we're coming up on, 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago at this point. So some of you might recoil at the idea of, why are these people still using old Windows and whatnot? And I would respond by saying some people cannot afford to upgrade their software. Some of them are using computers that, it runs the software that they need it to run. And you might be very lucky in that whenever you need a new computer, you can just go out and get it. But some people who are still running Windows 7 can't just do that, you know. And Smurfy says also companies. Yeah, I mean, ideally they have an enterprise. They have like a software sort of validation group that's like vetting newer versions of Windows and rolling them out. But yeah, I mean, it took a while for Windows XP to be end of lifed and for everyone to switch over to Windows 7. And it's going to be similarly a long time for for some companies to switch over from Windows 7 to whatever's going to be available soon. Like, are they all going to switch from Windows 7 straight up to 11, or is there another version of Windows coming? I have no idea. But this is a perennial problem. You know, enterprises want stability. That's what ESR is for enterprises that want stability. And so, anyways, the long story short is we've decided to extend the lifetime of the ESR, the 115 ESR for 115 specifically, for an additional number of months. And then we'll revisit it at the end of that at the end of that set of months. We'll see whether or not it's worth it to do it again. Maybe the answer is yes. Maybe the answer is no. But, you know, that decision's kind of above my pay grade. Okay. What else? Is there anything else to mention? That's a lot of news. Overscroll animations are enabled by default on Linux. That's nice. Bunch of security fix. I think this was one that people were really getting burned on. There was some kind of copy and paste bug where context menu items were not enabled when expected. I saw a lot of traffic periodically about this particular bug. That's been fixed. There was another bug fix. Some people were noticing that their prefs for things like add-on or web extension recommendations those kept getting turned back on. That was not intentional. That was like a mistake in how our updater worked, and I believe that fix rolled out. And then there's a bunch of interesting web platform stuff. Like we now have some new primitives for the Web Crypto API. The Web Codex API has been enabled on desktop platforms. That's interesting. I've never used that one, but that's neat. So if you need to do some low-level audio and video encoding or decoding, now you can do some of that maybe. And then developer information. Let's see. Oh, yeah. You can make accordions now. The name attribute of the details element, it now allows you to have a number of different details kind of. So if the details element, if you're not familiar, this is how it behaves out of the box. It's like a thing that folds and unfolds, showing a summary, and then there's like it'll show the content if you unfold it. And you're so close to having like an accordion experience if you have a whole bunch of details elements all in a row. And guess what? The name attribute allows you to have that accordion behavior now. So if they all the details elements that share the same name, I think they have to be. I don't know if they have to be consecutive in the DOM. Maybe they don't, but when one is open, the others close. So this is like no JavaScript accordion. You can have that now, which is pretty nice. The more you can not use JavaScript, the better. You just use the built-in stuff. So that's some nice stuff. And any other bits of information that are worth calling out? Oh yeah. Also, I thought this was kind of great. Maybe you'd already heard me mention this in the last episode, but Puppeteer. You know what? I think I announced it last, or I mentioned it last episode. But yeah, version 23 of Puppeteer now supports Firefox out of the box. So if you're a web developer writing tests using Puppeteer, you can test in Firefox now, and that's good for web compatibility. So you should do that. All right. Now what? Let's get to actual work. That's the news. Everybody. Oh, there's a bunch of other interesting stuff in here, by the way. In Labs, if you're using Nightly, one of the things that has been in here for a while, because we've had like a Nightly experiment section for a while, but it was only in Nightly. And one thing that is in there that I worked on like back in the year 2000, I think, or 2001, were these global mute toggles for WebRTC, which are kind of neat. So you can turn those on. Those are off by default, but if you turn those on, then what you get is like you get controls like this. These are this is an always on top cutoff switch for your microphone and your camera for any website that's using your camera or microphone. You just like have an always on top kill switch for your camera feed or for your microphone. So you can see that in action. Let's see if we can see that in action. Let's go to, does this website still exist? Talkie.io. Let's start a chat. Let's allow camera access. You're gonna see my awful green screen here and microphone access. Hello. And now I'm going to use the cutoff switch and it shuts that off, and I'll use the cutoff switch for microphone and it shuts that off, and then we can turn them back on. So those are fairly useful in the event that you know that you're like, it's a heads up display to let you know that you are sharing your microphone or camera, and if you need to quickly cut them off no matter where it is, you can do that. And you can move this little window around if need be, or you can minimize it, and it goes away whenever the last consumer of your microphone or camera goes away. So anyways, I thought that that's worth checking out if that's stuff you care about. Right. Okay, let's get to work. Rebase and land a bunch of backup stuff. So what am I thinking of? The one I would start with, there is this one. So adding the profile group ID to the backup manifest. So this one's interesting because it involves changing the manifest. The manifest is what describes what's in a backup. And normally if we were shipping this by default anywhere, and if users had real backups that they were relying on, we would do like a schema version bump, and we'd have some kind of migration so that we could still interpret older backups. But because we haven't enabled this thing, we don't really have to worry about that. It does mean that people who are testing this stuff, like myself, any of their prior backups are not going to be compatible anymore, but that's okay. And what we're doing is we're putting the profile group ID into the backup manifest. And the reason for this is to make it easier to distinguish and like offer different behaviors if a user is restoring a backup on the same machine or on a different machine. And that the profile group ID is shared between, this is something that we are relying on the profile management team on. So there's a team working on making it so that you can have multiple profiles, and it's easier to do multiple profiles in Firefox. And we needed to wait for them to provide the profile group ID, which they have done. And when we store that in the backup, we will, like, upon restoration, compare that profile group ID to the current profile group ID, and we'll know whether or not, we'll have a decent idea of whether or not it's the, a user is recovering this on the same machine or on a new machine. And then we can we can offer different behaviors in either case. Like, knowing that a user is on a new machine, you can offer a different greeting, like, congratulations, you made it to the other side on a new device. So I added a bunch of tests. I modified a bunch of tests. Most of this is just tests. This is the operative part where we insert it into the manifest, and then I update the manifest schema, and then the rest of this was just updating tests. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see whether or not this applies cleanly on top of Central. So you're going to watch me use Git now. Git checkout bookmarks Central. That's the equivalent of HG update Central. And then I'm going to pull rebase. Oh, not HG. Git pull rebase. Whoops. Old habits die hard. So we're pulling in from Mercurial to Git. All right, and now I'm going to make sure I'm using artifact builds, and I'm going to mozfab patch. Now the good news is that mozfab is compatible with both Mercurial and Git. That's a kind of a nice feature, so I don't have to really change how I use mozfab. If anything, I will say that mozfab actually seems to behave better with Git than it does with Mercurial. Like, it actually seems to be a little bit faster. Oh, what happened to the placement of my face? What's going on here? How come my head moved? It's like my camera glitched out. What's going on here? Hold on. Let me see if I can fix that. 1 sec. Why is my camera all funky? Don't mind me. Don't mind me. There we go. There we go. Fixed it. Fixed it, everybody. Sorry about that. I wasn't even really paying attention. I'll bet you that as soon as Firefox gained access to the camera, something in the camera driver freaked out, and then OBS got confused. I'll bet you that's what happened. Okay, so it applied cleanly. Let's build with Artifact. Let's build. We're going to run the tests and make sure that the tests still pass, and if they pass, we'll go ahead and land it. We'll auto-land it. The other stuff that I wanted to land is also backup related. Let me pull over the root of this one. Where's my browser? Do I only have the two open? Why did Okay, so this is my browser right here. I guess I accidentally slurped it over to my other display. And this is another patch that I want to bring over. Places Observer. And then there's yet another one. And the reason I'm doing a lot of this off screen is to make sure that you don't accidentally see patches or comments about security bugs in Fabricator. So I apologize that this seems a little cumbersome. This one. Okay, so these three are all approved, and this one's like a big stack of patches that have been approved, so we might try and land all of those today. This one, I just need to, it's been a while because I was away. Now I need to like run the tests and make sure it all applies. So let's run the tests. Test, browser, components, backup, tests, XPC shell. I'm going to do it in sequential order, so to not hose my, my processor, the cores. Is there some documentation how you prefer people to use Git on the Mozilla repo? That's a great question. And that's also a really good point, Greg, about making this optional because of 115. Ooh, that's a really good point. Thank you for bringing that up, because it's very unlikely that we'd backport any of the profile group stuff or profiles work to 115. It's extremely unlikely. It's not going to happen. I'll tell you that right now. It's not going to happen. Let me comment in here. Greg Pappas brought up a good point today that if our aim is to eventually backport the backup component, that we shouldn't make the profile group ID a required field, since we're unlikely to backport the profile management work. I'm going to go ahead and make this field optional. Make this field optional. Yeah. That's a really good point. Thank you. Our test passed here. I'm going to update the patch now. Thank you again, Greg Pappas. Backup manifest schema profile group ID. I'm going to take it out of the required fields. Let's running our tests again. So documentation on how to use Git on the Mozilla repository. I've seen a few. How to use Git with Mozilla Firefox. So yeah, there's this quick start guide. This is how you get started with Git for Gecko View. Is Firefox really open source? What a question. You know what? I saw this and this seemed pretty relevant, although this is a few years old. Is there something in here about using Git? Yeah, to write a patch using Git. Update a submitted patch. Git retrieving changes. So like everything in here, I think there are lines in here as well between there's information in here about using both Mercurial and Git. So I'll link to that, smurfd. Okay, the tests still pass. Let's now run the browser tests. We'll run the Marionette test. We'll do the Chrome test next. Marionette. Okay. Git status. I'll go ahead and update. Browser components backup. Content backup manifest. Git commit amend. I don't think there's a way that I can just do git amend. I'm making the field optional in the backup manifest because in the event that we decide to backport the backup component to ESR 115, we need to handle the fact that ESR 115 has no notion of a profile group ID and is unlikely to ever have such a notion. Okay. Let's go ahead and update that submission. Submit head single. Oh, I think I forgot to run the Marionette test. Oh, did I? Did I run the Marionette test? I did run the Marionette test, and that passed. Okay, good. Good. So let's go ahead and try and land this then. Now, obviously, whenever we do the backport, this is not going to work. We'll need to remove that line, but that's okay. Our tests will catch that. Okay, so go ahead and let's do it. Does the comment need to be updated? The other ones end in optional. Ooh, does the comment need to be updated? Optional. Optional. Yeah, good idea. Good idea. Let me know if there's a better, is there a way of doing git amend rather than commit amend? Tap submit, head single. Good eye, Gregory Pappas. All right, now let's land this thing. Land this puppy. All right, next up. This big old stack. So I will actually attempt to apply this to the current revision because this first one is going to go to Autoland, and if these don't apply cleanly, then we'll know that we're going to need to rebase them. So let's go ahead and apply all of these. Moz fab patch, boop, apply to here. Applying. Now, were there any open issues on any of these? Yes, I can close that one because the try push seemed okay. Any other open issues? No, none there. I'm basically looking in the top right corner for the open issues count. These are all addressed 6 out of 6, so that's good. Part 5, good. Part 6, good. Part 7, good. Part 8, good. And just to be clear, what the stack of patches is doing, because I think I forgot to mention that, is it's triggering backup regeneration when the user intentionally clears data. That's the goal here, is we want to avoid, we're being very conservative to start and not keeping data around in a backup in the event that a user's like, clear my history or something. We're blowing away the backups in that case. Okay, so that all applies cleanly. Let's run the tests, or let's build and let's run the tests. Make sure that they all come out in the wash. Okay. Okay, that looks good. Do the browser ones. Chrome ones. And finally the Marionette one. And if that all goes green, it's landing time. Woo! All right, let's do it. Oh, let's also make sure that doc generation works properly. Sometimes that burns us. Doc, browser components backup, docs, fatal warnings. Let's make sure that this still works nicely. Got to get a bunch of packages. Doesn't accept fatal warnings. What's the what are the arguments? Oh, fatal warnings is now the default. That's good. Ah, fatal warnings. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, the doc was okay. Could be a good intern job, maybe to update it, to add stuff like you use bookmarks, for example, and so on, especially sections so you messed up. So one thing that I highly recommend is something called flight rules for Git. This has been very helpful for me. This is just like generally useful in the event that you're in a real pickle with Git. And it's basically like, hey, I need to do this. Hey, I want to list all my branches. Hey, I want to delete a branch. I accidentally deleted my branch. I want to undo a rebase. I rebase, but I don't want to force push. How do I do these things? This is a great document. Okay, so I have a fatal warning here that I need to fix. Under debounce regeneration on line 528 of backup service. 528. What? Or maybe it's on line 488. No, I don't know what you mean. Reference target not found. Debounce regeneration. Is it talking about this? It must be. So how else do I do C? C backup service dot. So why doesn't that work? Extract metadata from debounce. If I get rid of this, will the So that's the one that's broken. That's what it doesn't like. So why are you complaining? Warning, warning, warning. Got fatal warnings. Any reference target not found. Backup service, debounce regeneration. But it knows about this one. Oh! There is no extract metadata from archive. That's why that one works. That's something that we should file. It's probably extract JSON from archive. That's supposed to be. Extraction channel. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this. I'll just do it manually. C debounce regeneration. I think that'll make it happy. SmurfD says, okay, the thing I mean is like if you Google something with Git and issues, you get 10,000 different answers. Yeah, that's why I love flight rules. 90% of the time, the answer that I want is in here. And it's vetted and constantly updated because usually what I want is in here. Because like I'm in a situation like, oh, I accidentally, I committed something to the wrong branch or something. That's in here. You just have to kind of like search for it in here. Okay, so that fixed it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna absorb, Git absorb. That's an extension for Git that, no, No changes. Oh, I have to stage it. Add browser components. Backup service.sys.mjs, and now absorb. It'll find the right commit in the stack to commit it to. Yay! I don't whatever it was this one. Fix up. Oh. Should I have been... Did I use git absorb wrong? Git absorb. Fix up but automatic. How was I supposed to use it? Absorb. Usage. Absorb. I should have done and rebase. Git absorb and rebase. Stack limit use base. I guess I'll just rebase manually. So that was a fix to part 1. Oh, what's going on here? How come whoopsie daisy. I had way too much stuff in there. Git log. So you're watching me learn all this stuff in real time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Maybe I wanted this one. Git rebase interactive. Okay, I wanted one further. I wanted this one. Git rebase interactive. That's what I wanted. And then I want to take this one and I want to roll it into here. What do they call it in here? Squash. Meld it into the previous commit. Squash. Oh. No, I want fix up. I want fix up. Like squash, but keep only the previous commit's log message. Yeah, fix up. Okay, let's see now if we got what we needed. Git show that. Yeah, we got our change in there. Fantastic. So now, if I do mock build faster, I'll do the doc one more time. Mock doc browser components backup docs. Make sure that still works. AN shell XYZ says if you supply ID, it will show that ID commit changes. If you supply ID, it will show that ID commit changes. Like with git show? Yeah. Yeah. Understood. Understood. I'm with you. All right, so I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to mozfab submit this to head. Mozfab submit. Is it 2 dots or 3 dots? I never remember. Does that work? Ambiguous unknown revision, or maybe I just do mozfab. You know, it applied cleanly. I wonder if I could rebase them on top of Bookmark Central. How do I do that? I need to rebase these changes, starting with this one on top of Bookmark Central. So if I am here, git checkout, git rebase Bookmarks Central interactive. Don't take that one. don't care that I dropped it. That's fine. I didn't need the local copy anyways. Okay, now I should be able to mozfab submit. Just submit. Right? Found multiple upstream central Mozilla origin. Unknown. I don't know what any of that means. I don't know what's happening there. This is usually the result of failure to detect the correct remote repository. Try again with upstream. Okay. Git rebase upstream central. What? Oh, sorry. Mozfab submit upstream central. Unknown commit central. Do I mean bookmarks central? Oh, this could be a disaster. Let's find out. Okay, that looks good. Okay, I think it's working out. Woo! We can get those merged. Then the next thing, go ahead and queue these for Autoland. Did the first one already Autoland? Is the tree open? No, the tree is closed. So, at any rate, different Autoland request. Go ahead. Make my day. So we can close that one out. And then there was one more, I think, which was about search. Make sure that unverified search engines stay unverified during backup recovery. This was R+. Let's rebase this. Okay, check out bookmarks, central, mozfab patch, apply to here. Patch failed. Patch did not apply. Aha! So this one does need some manual deconflicting. Unless this doesn't need to be based on something. No, okay. Patch failed. Patch does not apply here. Are there conflict markers? No! Where's my conflict markers? Git reset hard. How do I get conflict markers? Git conflict markers configuration. How do I like conflict markers. Git config enable conflict markers. How do I turn it on? Thought those were the default? Did I I lose some tracking information? What do I want to rebase against? Branch. Where am I on? Oh, git checkout. Oh, git show. Yeah, no, I don't need that. Git checkout bookmarks central. Git branch D. I don't need that revision. Let's try that mozfab again and do a better job of, or how about not apply to here? We'll do a manual rebase. So, or we'll do it like this. Okay. Doing some linting. Okay. Now we're going to get branch. We're going to get rebase on top of bookmarks central. Conflict. So that's what we expected. So let's see if we find conflict markers. Here we go. What was the change that happened in this file recently? I think this sounds familiar. We changed some search engine configuration stuff for testing. With set remote settings config. That's the end just a few days ago. So we changed from using search data. I see. I think what I need to do is continue to have these preferences flipped, and then I get rid of this. I think that's right. Let's take a look at the patch again. Yeah, we just add those two pref flips at the top. Okay. Are there any other... if it feels like I'm a little antsy with Git, it's because I am. I'm still kind of like getting used to this world. Git rebase continue. Okay. Log. Looks good. Build. Holy smokes, so we're gonna have to do a full-blown artifact build. All right, well, we'll let that stuff happen. Hopefully shouldn't take too long. In the meantime, I don't know if I'm gonna make it to the full half-hour mark, gang. I'm starting to get pretty tired. I mean, it's been a while since I've done live hacking, live coding, and I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but it is a bit of an exercise, like a mental exercise, and it takes a lot of energy. And I feel like I'm kind of running out of stamina here. But let's go ahead and run these tests. They're just XPC shell tests, right? And what about this one? XPC shell. Yeah, right? 2 XPC shell tests. Good. Lock test. Browser components backup test XPC shell sequential. Good. All right. Git or mozfab submit head single message rebase. Just the one. And then we'll go ahead and queue this up for a landing. So everyone's happy with that. All right. Go ahead and merge that in. That's a bunch of landings that I wanted to do. So that's good. That's good. Woo! So now what else do we want to work on? I did a bunch of landings of some patches that I'd had reviewed last week. In the remaining time, is there stuff that I think I can do and be effective at? Let's see. Yeah, let's do this one. So this was one I was need infoed on recently, and this is a problem that got filed long ago. What, like 8 years ago? And this is a regression that I had apparently opened up. This is not a major deal, but I had a question for market. So how do I explain this? So there's a bug. I'm going to demonstrate this bug, but I think I have to do it on Windows. So am I signed into the VPN? No. Let me sign into the VPN. Hold on just a quick second. I got to sign into the VPN, the corporate VPN, so I can connect to my Windows machine. 1 second here. Got to do the big dance. Got to provide all the stuff. All right. So I'm connected now, and now let's see if I can connect to my Windows machine. Are you still out there? Yes. All right. So the issue, the bug, is, oh yeah, I was testing it on this machine. I can actually demonstrate it from here. So let's look in here. If I copy this in a new tab, oh no, this, copy this, and I have it in a tab. So I've got a very long blank page here. And now let me drag this tab out. If I hit page down, nothing happens. Why? Because nothing needed to paint in the content area, because it was just blank. And so therefore the content, because there's a routine that's waiting for the content area to paint before we switch focus to the content area after a window opens. That's a performance optimization. The performance optimization doesn't take into account the possibility that the content will never need to paint again, or doesn't need to paint after being dragged out. And so you never switch focus. And so, the keyboard doesn't change my position. I'm trying to page down right now. Now, if I like move the mouse a little bit, that will cause a paint. And now my keyboard interaction works. But that's the bug, basically. And so I was need infoing a colleague of mine named Marcus. I had identified the operative piece of code, which was this. This is the thing that's waiting for the paint to occur. And I said, what this is effectively doing is trying to avoid focusing the content area until it is first painted. The problem is that a frame loader swap doesn't necessarily cause a models after paint to be fired for the torn out tab. Should we be firing a models after paint after a frame loader swap? I'm not sure. It's kind of a special case. Do you know? Marcus says, I guess it's up to us to decide what semantics we want for models after paint, but in general, I would say if there is no content paint, then I don't expect a models after paint event. And causing an extra content paint when it's not needed seems a bit dirty. I'd say the problem we have here is an instance of the missed first event problem. We want to wait until a tab has had its first paint, but it is already in a state where it has had its first paint, and so it has no reason to notify us of the first paint. Can we somehow carry the has had first paint state across the frame loader swap? Great question. So let's think about that. So the setup first content window paint promise is called when? Before we do Zool layout. Before we have I think, attempted to adopt a tab. Adopt. Tab to adopt. What is get tab to adopt? Tab to adopt. If window arguments and window Zool element is instance a tab, tab to adopt equals window argument 0. Clear the reference of the tab being adopted from arguments. There was no tab to adopt and the argument said tab to adopt to null to avoid checking it again. Return tab to adopt. So basically what I think this is saying is need to wait until we finish adopting the tab or we might end up focusing the initial browser and losing focus when it gets swapped out for the tab to adopt. Oh. We have to wait until we finish adopting the tab. Moz layer tree ready. Is there a way I can know? So parent dot browsing context .webidl paint. Isn't there a way for me to know whether or not a thing is painted? I seem to recall that being a thing inside of async tab switcher. Has presented? Has presented. If it has presented from the frame loader, maybe we can avoid this. Has presented means it has painted at least once. So do we get a Moz layer tree ready event? I think we do. I think we do. Let's go back to our Windows machine for a second here. Let's clear our logging and let's reproduce the issue again. Okay. So let's clear logging, reproduce. Oh, see, that's no good because it we need to be able to see the logging here. Okay, come on. Okay. We got, and then it saw my mouse move. Shoot. Let's do that again. Sorry, gang. Okay. I'll tear out and move my mouse out. Ah. So it's very finicky. I'm going to tear out. How about I right click, move tab to new window, and then get my mouse out of there. Okay. So we got the right Moz layer tree, removing the listener from Moz layer tree ready. I think we should skip the Moz after paint listener in the event that there is a tab to adopt. Or in the event that the current tab has presented. Layer tree ready. So maybe if we do this, if get tab to adopt, what we need to do is look at the gbrowser selected browser. If gbrowser selected browser, we need to get the frame loader. Frame loader dot remote tab. Selected browser dot frame loader remote tab has presented. No need to wait for the paint. Focus in the initial browse and then losing focus when it gets swapped out for the tab to adopt. No need to wait for the paint event here. The content has already had a chance to paint in the past. So we can go ahead and focus. This dot, we'll resolve the promise there. Else. Let's see what this does. Nice hair, El Mao. So sad you don't even look old? Nice hair? I'm not sure what you mean. These are my headphones. I'm not sure what you're talking about. TRNDSTTR. These are my headphones. You're mistaking my headphones for hair. All right. It's an easy mistake to make. Headphones sometimes look a lot like hair. I get it. But in this case, they're headphones. Okay, so we're going to move this out to a new window. Then I can move my mouse. Hey, all right, we fixed it, I think. Let's double check. Yeah, I think that fixed it. How do we test? So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to see whether or not that has any impact on our TS Paint performance tests, and then Framelit remote tab has presented. Content has already had a chance to paint in the past, so we can go ahead and focus. Is there another way? Like remote tab. What is the NSI remote tab? Remote tab. Primary remote tab. Gregory Pappas asks, would it make sense to focus the content in an end swap doc shells listener? Maybe. This is already such a circuitous. Like, I guess what we could do is we could detect whether or not in here we have a tab to adopt, set a state flag. Then once the Moz layer tree event comes in, then check to see if that state flag has been set, and if so, add the nswap doc shells event handler. Otherwise, do the Moz after paint. I don't know if that's meaningfully better than this. Can you think of a? I'm wondering, Gregory, if you have an idea of, or if there's an edge case that you're considering where that would be an improvement over this check here on whether or not it's already painted. Because if it hasn't painted, it will paint, and we know that we'll end up in this branch. We will see a Moz after paint. Has presented. Let's take a look at the has presented definition. True if we previously received layers for this tab when switching to it. Yeah, it's been presented. All right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post this patch for review. Oh, I'm using Mercurial over here, so I got to change my brain a little bit. I guess there's a case where the frame loader would be blank, right? Browser, custom, element, frame loader, frame loader. Because, yeah, it's a Zool frame element. And I don't think Zool frame elements are guaranteed a frame loader. Are they? Includes Moz frame loader owner. Frame loader, yeah. It may be null. Okay, in that case, I think we're doing the right thing of checking if the frame loader exists, and then the remote tab. Or is it WebIDL? Yeah, that might also be null. It has a remote frame. Gregory Pappas writes, I don't know if it'd be better. I just remember looking at this code while investigating such and such and remembering if the event exists. Yeah. You're absolutely right. The event exists, and it's designed to be a way for other people to hear that a tab drag and drop has finished. In this case, I think we can be a little bit more general. You know, all we need to know, whether it was via drag and drop or some other mechanism, knowing that this content has presented in the past means that we don't have to worry about waiting for it to present before we switch focus. I mean, the whole point of doing this optimization is to wait for the first content window to have painted. And if it has already painted, we can go ahead and resolve. And so I'm tempted. I'm going to go this route because I think it's a little less tab drag and drop specific. It's more generalized. And it better answers the question, I think, of did the first content window paint? And let me know when it does. All right, so let's go ahead and commit this bug. What's this bug? And then I think I'm gonna call it. I'm really starting to lose energy here. What was the name of this bug? This one. Bug such and such. How do I want to describe this? Don't wait for Moz after paint after tab tear out to focus web content. Or no, I can make it more. Don't for the first content window if that content window has painted in the past. Let's see what Heist thinks of that. Nog HG? Nog HG? Is that I can't tell what that means, Smurfd. Is that a Twitch-ism? I don't know what that means. Not HG. In this case, it is HG because I'm on my Windows machine and I haven't switched my Windows machine to use Git yet. So I'm halfway. I'm straddling the line between Mercurial and Git. I'm gonna rebase because I think it's been a while since this this repository pulled from Central. I'm going to push that up for review, and then I am going to end the stream. Hey, thanks for watching episode 376 of The Joy of Coding. Let me know what you thought. I realize this today was a little low energy. I'm still kind of getting back into the groove. I'm still getting back into the swing of things. But please let me know what you thought. There's a form. There's a form right here in the agenda. In fact, let me drop a link to that form into the chat. Here's the Rate This Episode form that you can fill out if you've got feedback about what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see more of, what you'd like to see less of. And if you have questions, I can do my best to try and answer questions if you would like about Firefox, the code base, software development, open source, Mozilla, whatever. Send me questions and I'll do my best. If I can answer them, I'll try and answer them on the stream. So you can go ahead and send me questions that way. And I think life, you can ask me life questions. Yeah, ask me what I'm reading. I don't know. Yeah, just ask me about me. No one ever asks me about me. Whatever you'd like. 42, classic answer. Thank you very much, Smurf D. But yeah, you feel free to send me questions if you have any. That's a smiley face, or it's a sad face from Danny Cole, and you don't like the answer 42. I don't know how to interpret that. Is 42 a super sad answer for the answer to the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? I hope not. I feel like it's a pretty optimistic number. Okay, 39. Oh, no, you said no one asks you about you. Well, also, I'm a fairly private person, so I don't even know if I'd answer anyway if you asked me about me. No need for a sad face there. I expose enough of myself. The persona that you perceive through Bugzilla and The Joy of Coding, etc. There's not more of me that I'm interested in sharing. This is the bits and pieces that I'm happy to share. Although, I mean, if you're curious, go ahead and ask. Ask me what I'm having for dinner tonight, and I'll share that. Who knows? You can ask. What's the worst that can happen? I either won't answer or I won't know the answer. So go ahead and ask. Wow, yeah, it has been a while since I've pulled. 21,061 change sets are coming in. So it's been a while since I've worked on this Windows machine, I think, and it merged. All right, so let's post that. I'm actually going to update the commit message a little bit with some more detail so that Heis has a little more context here. We have an optimization in place to only focus the content area after the top level window opens. To only focus, we have an optimization in place when opening top level browser windows to only focus the content area after it has had a chance to paint. For tab tear out, for windows opened due to tab tear out, we failed to take into account the possibility that the content has already painted when doing this optimization check, and that it's unlikely to need to paint in the future, meaning that when doing this, and that unless a paint happens, we failed to. This meant that in certain scenarios, the content area wouldn't be focused if the content didn't need a repaint after the tab tear out. This patch checks the selected browser to see if it has painted already in the past before, and if so, resolves the, what's the name of the promise? what's the name? Resolves the, whoops, promise immediately rather than waiting for the next mods after paint. All right, let's post that for review, and then I'm gonna call it. Hey, thanks again for watching the episode. Let me know what you thought. I posted the link to the rate this episode forum, and hopefully I will see you next week. Take care, everybody. Have yourselves a great week. Bye bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.